Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Queen City Toastmasters. I'm David Jones, the Sergeant of Arms. Welcome. I just want you to know the bathrooms are behind us. Women's on that side, men on that side, exits. Also, if you could silence your phones. And tonight, we're going to have some challenges. We have our President Elvis, who's also giving a speech. He is currently in Dominican Republic, driving down the road. He just pulled over the side of the road to see if he can get a good connection. So that should be fun. We'll see how that works out. I'm sure it'll be good. And what else? I think that's it. I'm just going to go ahead. Elvis, are you available to kick us off?
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Well, thank you, Davey, and good evening, fellow Toastmasters and honored guests. My apologies that my video is not very clear tonight. As David mentioned, I have been having some challenges here trying to get to a spot where I could do this more appropriately. But here I am, and thank you all for joining tonight, both who are on site and also online. Welcome to Queen City Toastmasters, and I would like to go ahead and introduce our guests. I would defer to our Sergeant at Arms or maybe our VP of Membership, if present, to recognize the presence of the guests that are on site, and please help me introduce them.
All right, we're going to have Jamie, our Toastmaster of the Day, introduce the guest. So here, he's going to take it over.
Perfect.
Thank you. All right, so I'm just going to go around, and if I could have the guests just introduce yourself, what brought you to Toastmasters? I know some of you are back to Toastmasters, so then maybe what's bringing you back to Toastmasters if this is your second or third or fourth time back? And we'll start with Xavier.
Hello, my name is Xavier. This is my fifth meeting. Over the last 4 weeks, it's been a journey. Listening to other people speak and just learning more about becoming a leader and becoming a better public speaker.
Thank you. And we have Bill back as well.
Good afternoon. I'm Bill Fountain. This is my third time here at the Toastmasters. I've enjoyed it. Particularly the speeches that were last week. I really found very educational, and I hope to be able to be a better speaker one day. And I had a chance to come today. I just got through flying I'm a mission pilot or a volunteer mission pilot for the Civil Air Patrol, and we just got through supporting the Army. So it's my pleasure. I got here earlier than I thought I would. Thank you.
Well, you avoided the traffic then, Bill, because it was pretty bad going across town today. All right, I didn't get your name. Gabby, do you mind introducing yourself quickly? It doesn't actually work for here. It's for the people.
Okay. I was like, I can't hear anybody. Hi, everyone. I'm Gabby. This is my first meeting. Why am I here? I see myself doing bigger things down the line, leading, talking to more crowds at some point, and I think it's never too early to start. So I'm starting. Thank you.
I love it. There's no substitute for starting. And Milton?
Hello, my name is Milton. This is actually my second Toastmasters meeting here. My first one was years ago before COVID, and then we got hit with COVID. So that kind of just turned everything upside down. And well, now I'm back, and I'd like to sharpen up my public speaking skills so that I can get this one project I have in mind up off the ground.
Thank you, Milton. And I do think this is pretty representative of the in-person attendance that we've got at our Zoom club now. So now's the right time to come back out. And then I have Dave.
All right, so tonight my goal is to get one complete sentence out. So, no, my name is Dave Sebesta, and I've been in the Charlotte area for about 5 months now. My wife and I moved down from St. Paul, Minnesota. and we came down for her new job here. I myself, I've been in software development for about 15 years. And last 2 years been focused on game development. And just, in that time, actually, I should say, I've been working remote since 2015. So in that time, communication skills are kind of on decline. So anyway, yeah, I'm glad the group is here. And I think even just the few sessions that I've been to, just getting up in front of people, gonna keep working on that. So getting comfortable with stuff, and yeah, glad to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. Welcome. We've got Kelly back as well.
Hi, my name is Kelly Burkholder, and this is my third time visiting. I haven't joined yet, but I know I'm eventually going to. I really enjoyed the speeches last week. My table mate excelled. I really enjoyed watching you. And I'm learning from everyone when everyone speaks. So I'm happy to be here. Thanks.
Thank you. And last, Zhenya is back.
Hello, my name is Zhenya Tsvetkova. This is my second meeting. Actually, Jamie and I work at the same company together. I'm here because, well, one, I'm not, English is not my first language, but I'm actually working with a lot of clients. So when I have a script and when I'm comfortable with what I'm discussing, I'm very concise and clear. But in a lot of discussions or, meetings we have, and sometimes when emotions become high, or we have crucial conversations, I tend to sort of go off topic, not be concise, provide too much detail. So I'm really looking to improve my skills and become more clear and concise in my communication skills. So happy to be here. Thank you.
Welcome. And we have a guest speaker today, Shannon, who I'll introduce momentarily. But Elvis, that's it for guests in the room. If I can hand it back to you. Hear us, Elvis?
I'm sorry, I lost the audio for a second. So
Yeah, all good. We wrapped up our introductions here.
okay, well, thank you so much. And now we will continue with the introduction of the Toastmaster who is going to lead us through the program tonight. He is our treasurer, helped us already with the introduction of the guests. Please welcome our Toastmaster of the day, Jamie Richardson.
Thank you, Toastmaster Elvis. And I just want to say how impressed I am with Elvis's commitment. Like, this is impressive to be in the Dominican Republic on vacation, delivering a speech from your car, right? This in and of itself is content for the next speech, right? So just keep this in mind. All right, I am thrilled to be your Toastmaster of the evening this evening. Let me start with a question. Who loves tax season? We actually have one. Alan. Oh, John, you must love tax season. All right. Maybe it's just me. I'm not surprised by that. Even if you don't love taxes, you do need to pay attention to them. And 2023 is a pretty important year in terms of tax changes to the federal and state tax code. Changes that could potentially offer benefits to all of you on your tax bill. So in tonight's theme, tax time, I'm going to share some of the learnings of the research that I have done and hopefully find things that I can share with you that you can use on your 2023 taxes. But before we do that, let me introduce a few folks who will help and facilitate tonight's meeting. And I will start with our inspirational thought master, Toastmaster Leon.
Hi, how's everybody doing today? Good, glad to hear. So I wasn't originally going to share this, but I figured I would. Just a success of being involved in a part of Toastmasters. So today, well, I'll backtrack. So part of my job, I work for an IT service and consulting company. And I'm kind of more so in an entry level position within our business development unit. And so they decided to start out doing a pitch competition where you have to essentially pitch the company and have kind of a mock conversation with decision makers, with some of the large financial institutions that we work with. I don't know yet if I won or not yet, but I am fairly new compared to some of my other colleagues. But after I did this pitch and I practiced some of the more impromptu questions, right after my boss asked me to be a part of a meeting with a potential client, a very large potential client. So I just want to share that with you all, that by actively participating in Toastmasters and showing up every day, it can also translate to other areas of your life, whether entrepreneurship or your career. Now, about 2 meetings ago, we had a guest speaker. I can't remember her name, but she was a poet. Elaine? Yes. And like the day before she came, I had read this poem that I felt, when I read it, I don't know why, but it just reminded me of Toastmasters and this group. So I figured that for the inspirational thought today, that I read it for you all. The poem is called Ode by author O'Shaughnessy. We are the music makers and we are the dreamers of dreams, wandering by the lone sea breakers and sitting by the desolate streams. World losers and world forsakers, on whom the pale moon gleams. Yet we are the movers and shakers of the world forever, it seems. With wonderful deathless ditties, we build up world's greatest cities. And out of a fabulous story, we fashion an empire's glory. One man with a dream at pleasure shall go forth and conquer a crown. And 3 with a new song measures can trample an empire down. We in the ages lying in the buried past of the earth build Nineveh with our sighs and Babel itself with our merit, and through them with prophecy. To the old of the new world's worth, for each age is a dream that is dying or one that is coming to birth. Thank you.
Thank you, Toastmaster Leon. Really enjoyed the personal anecdote too. What a great example and reminder for all of us of what being here and being focused and getting the most out of this experience can mean. All right, let me introduce our next facilitator, our grammarian, Toastmaster David.
Sir, tonight I'll be the grammarian. I'll be listening for good words, good sentences, good phrases, as well as our filler words such as so, you know. My other part of the role is word of the day. In keeping with our tax season, the word of the day will be deduction. So try to use deduction in anything that you say or do. For instance, most people's children's are a tax deduction. It's one reason to have a kid, I think. I'm not sure, but some people get lots of tax deductions, more than others. And that'll be it for me. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster. And Mr. Toastmaster, I wanted to give you, that's going to be Shannon's speech.
Okay.
And then also
I do not have the pen.
I'll bring it back.
Okay, we have one more role anyway. Toastmaster John will be our timer this evening. He'll share his role. No.
Good evening, fellow Toastmasters and honored guests. I am John Capello. I am your timer for this evening. Now, we here at Toastmasters, we certainly want to be effective speakers. We want to have impact, but want to do so on time. So we try to keep a discipline here, Toastmasters. In order to maintain that, I'm going to help prompt you by utilizing my traffic light instrument over here. Essentially, through 3 different sections of our club for you guests, I'm going to display a different colored light depending on where you're at within that speech allotted time. For example, the prepared speeches, we have 2 tonight. I believe both are 5 to 7 minutes. And at the 5-minute mark, you will see this green light. That's a cue to the speaker to know where he's at within that time frame. Then at 6 minutes, you'll see the yellow light, to kind of give him a warning light that he's coming up to the end. And then finally, at 7 minutes, they'll see the red light. That signifies that they should be wrapping up their conclusion. They will have about a 30-second grace period, of which we're not having votes tonight, but in our normal course of agenda, we would have ballot counters and you would need to qualify to be within that time frame. We'll have similar green, yellow, and red lights for our impromptu speeches. That is between 1 and 2 minutes. Green light at 1 minute, yellow light at 1 minute and 30 seconds, red light at 2 minutes. And then finally, for our evaluators, that's a general evaluation portion where we get a little criticism, constructive criticism, I should say. Then we will have a green light at 2 minutes, a yellow light at 2.5 minutes, and then finally a green light or a red light at 3 minutes. So let's try to be mindful of our time, and good luck to all our speakers this evening. Jake.
Thank you, Toastmaster John. All right. So some of the changes that are coming from a tax perspective in 2023 are adjustments that the IRS is making to deal with inflation. So depending on which metric you look at, inflation is running around 5.5%, 6.5%. And so some of those specific adjustments include, they are going to be increasing contribution levels for 401k and IRA accounts. So any of you that are able to potentially increase your pre-tax savings for retirement to one of those two accounts could see your tax bill come down. Another example is they're actually going to be increasing the tax brackets. So think about those graduated tax brackets that we pay more higher percentage as you move up in income. Those are all increasing by 7% to reflect inflation. So if those of you who are making a little bit more money, hopefully the reality will be you'll pay around the same amount from a tax perspective. Whereas those who are making the same amount may actually see your tax bills go down. Lastly, they will be increasing the standard deduction as well for both families and individuals. Again, that will lower the income rate for all of us, which will hopefully mean lower taxes. So concerted efforts to make sure that inflation is not going to be a hindrance on most of us as taxpayers. Another big change, which might be even more interesting to some of you out there, is actually something that's not going to be happening in 2023. And there are rules that were proposed by the IRS for digital payment services. So think of PayPal and Venmo. And if you had an account that earned over $600 in income, you were going to have to start paying taxes on that this year. That's down from a previous level of $20,000 in income. So this is going to capture a lot more people now all of a sudden having to pay taxes. Fortunately, the IRS realized that's a big deal. They need to give people time to adjust. And so there's going to be a 1-year grace period. They're going to push that back. So any of you who have side gigs, I don't know, making dog costumes for Halloween, you have a little bit more time to get your affairs in order. With that, we'll move into the main event, which are our prepared speeches for this evening. And our first speaker, again, is none other than our president, Toastmaster Elvis, if you're here with us. Okay. Well, if we need to, we can move to our second speaker. Come back. Toastmaster Elvis, do we have you? All right, we'll do an audible and we'll hopefully come back if you can get him back online. Yeah, so we'll go to our second speaker. So please join me in welcoming, Shannon Tobian, who will be delivering a speech titled Taxes, Hoo-ah, What Are They Good For? Thank you. I love it.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, guest, fellow Toastmasters. You know, we were always told to beware the Ides of March. I think the worst are the Ides of April. Tax season. Have you ever stopped to think, where do our taxes go? Even before that, Have you ever stopped to think how much we pay in taxes? We're given a salary. We're taxed on that before we get it. Once we get it, anytime we buy something, we're taxed on that. And that person we purchase it from is also taxed on that income. How many times can $1 be split up to be provided to the government? It's amazing. There are actually mathematicians who are baffled by this. Probably. I just want to talk about a couple of things. My wife just recently got her MBA in teaching. She's a special ed teacher at Clinton Elementary School, which is a very needy school in Lancaster, South Carolina. We have to purchase things for her classroom all the time, just so her students will have the tools needed to learn what she wants to teach them that day. I want you to think about this. Spending for education per state, the highest, New York City. They spend $20,645 per student. Not bad. You'd think they would have the top-notch education. The lowest actually surprised me, coming from West Virginia, born and bred, was Utah. Utah spends on the average $7,954 per student. It may sound like a lot, but let me tell you something, ladies and gentlemen. As the husband of a teacher, it ain't. So where does our money go? What high-speed things does the government see fit to spend our tax dollars on other than our future? Well, I had a cornucopia of things that I could talk about tonight where money is spent where it needs to be. Let me just point out a couple of things that our tax dollars, yours, mine, hard-earned dollars, are spent on instead of education. How about over $500,000 given to the University of California to digitize pictures, T-shirts, concert tickets of the Grateful Dead? Aren't you proud? How about $700,000 to study the methane emissions of cows to see how it affects climate change? Oh, it gets worse, ladies and gentlemen. How about $300,000 to study virtual reality penguins? I'm sure in the coming apocalypse, those virtual reality penguins will be our front lines and our probably last line of defense. $6.2 million to study smart toilets with the high-speed electronic capability of recognizing an individual's anus. You can't make this stuff up, ladies and gentlemen. Only our government can. $200 million to Presidio Trust, which is a park in northern San Francisco. $200 million to develop a park. Have you seen reports coming out of San Francisco lately? Have you seen the reports of the homeless, the drug addicted, just littering the streets One place, and I hate to say this because I love the boys in blue, but I think some overspending may have been occurring over the last few years, especially since the war on terrorism has gone to our law enforcement community. They absolutely deserve the best training and equipment that money can buy for the task that they do, comma. But let me tell you about Galena, Illinois. Population 3,282. They were given a grant to bolster their law enforcement presence. And they used that money to purchase a combat breaching vehicle. A mini tank, actually track driven, with instead of a cannon, has a large hole in the front with a large, hard, heavy sheet of iron on the front to blast through doors and breach in those incredibly hard and scary tactical situations that they have in Galena. So, ladies and gentlemen, my challenge to you is to actually think about where your tax money goes this season. It's tax time. What is our representative government doing with it? Mr. Toastmaster. Thank you.
Thank you, Toastmaster Shannon. Some very stark examples of sometimes when there's little oversight, what might happen. Well, we have one more speaker, I think, hopefully. Nope, we lost him. That's okay. Gives me a good segue. So let's talk about a few more tax changes that are coming out in 2023. And these maybe, Shannon, meet a little bit more with your with your standard, which is they put money directly back into people's pockets, as opposed to maybe going to things that we don't otherwise have good visibility into. So last year, the Inflation Reduction Act was passed in 2022. And this legislation was focused on helping people who want to transition to alternative energy sources accelerate that journey. So for example, if you're going to purchase a brand new electric vehicle, you could get a tax credit of $7,500. And just as a reminder, a tax credit is money right back into your pocket. It's $1 for $1 offset of your tax bill at the end of the year. That is not a deduction, which just lowers your income and then lowers the tax that you then have to pay on that income. It is a very significant benefit, $7,500 back in your pocket. What I was even more interested in, I thought was cooler, was this: for the very first time, they're going to be offering a tax credit of $4,000 for the purchase of a used electric vehicle. And if there's anything more responsible than buying an electric vehicle, it's buying a used electric vehicle, because that's not using brand new resources. That's already out in the car. It's very efficient. There are also going to be some benefits associated with home improvements. So things like a solar roof or a heat pump that might be more energy efficient than a traditional furnace. But overall, if you're interested in moving to a greener way of life around your home or in some of your purchases, then this might be the year to think about it, because there could be a lot of tax benefits associated with doing it. Let's now transition to the... Oh, okay. Elvis, do we have you? It looks like
I am here, but I don't know that the signal is strong enough. I wouldn't want to cut off in the middle, but I could try.
All right, let's try. Why not? We got time for it. So please join me in welcoming our next speaker, Toastmaster Elvis. And I have to get his speech title. I left it over here. Delivering a speech titled "Moments of Joy" from his car. I think that's the end of the speech title, from my car.
All right. Are you still with me?
We're here if you're ready to go.
Okay. So raise your hand if you're happy. About a year ago, exactly in February last year, I went to my doctor for my regular annual assessment. And as I enter the waiting room, I got my usual anxiety, waiting for that moment to come and to wait for the diagnosis as usual for something that I'm not prepared to hear. When I saw the physician assistant coming in, she greeted me very nicely and asked me to come in. And as I was going in, I went to do the usual, jumped in a scale to have my weight measured. And after that, she would ask me a couple of questions in order to prepare going to see me. So as I was going into the other room, as usual, getting the anxiety. And that is because I was, from many years ago, suffering from high blood pressure. And so the news were very discouraging to me. Even after being through a rigorous program of exercises, trying to eat well, and getting better. But that day, to my surprise, even after my anxiety and me trying to get calmed through that moment, I was very surprised by the news that my blood pressure at that time was perfect. She could not believe it, so she asked me to wait for a few minutes and she would take it again. So sure enough, the second time, the results were same. My blood pressure was normal. I couldn't help it but feel really, really joyful at that moment. I was very happy. I could not believe it myself. And when doctor
Elvis, I think we lost your audio. Elvis, if you can hear, I think we lost your audio. You chat him? What's that? Just hit his punchline, I think.
So can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, so I will back down. So the second experience is I heard the phone ringing, and when I looked at it, it was from my mom. I was very surprised, and I was also, again, following the same routine of getting anxious before picking it up, because to me it was something that was unusual. My mom never calls me, and that day she was calling me to tell me that she was doing it because I don't call her, and that's something that I have shared before. and it's something that it's ingrained with me. It's something that I have to continue working on. But that day, instead of being angry with me, she actually did it with such a humorous, in such a humorous way that I couldn't help but crack laughing. And we did it for several minutes. We started laughing and we couldn't stop. So that was certainly another joyous moment in my life. So happiness is a state of mind. People live and die in the pursuit of happiness. But if all we hear on a daily basis is bad news, if all we experience is bad things, it makes it a lot more difficult to stay happy and live those happy moments. So my challenge to you tonight is to start looking at those little moments of happiness in your day, even when you're leaving a difficult situation, even when you're doing through a difficult situation in your life. Because a single thing as a laughter can decrease our stress hormones, scientifically can increase our immune cells and the fighting antibodies. So it is something that soothes our health. And looking for those moments of joy could be as simple as adopting healthy habits, trying to seek for good news on a daily basis, and laughing more. Look for raise hand. If you're happy.
Thank you, Toastmaster Jamie. Shannon, you came in right on the wire at 7 minutes and 29 seconds. If we were doing a ballot, you would qualify. Elvis, you came in at 7 minutes and 35 seconds, but I allowed a deduction of 5 seconds as a result of our audio problems, and you also qualify.
All right, I'm excited to move to our next section of the meeting, which is table topics, and I will introduce our table topics master, Toastmaster Melissa Hutchinson.
Good evening, fellow Toastmasters and honorable guests. So taxes. Taxes have never been something fun in my life. I remember growing up, tax time, my dad would have documents everywhere. He's in sales, and it was just something very complicated for him. And it was, you just knew that was a stressful moment of his life. There were times after that growing up, I'd have one job and it was super easy. I would do my taxes on my own. And then the past decade have been super complicated with like side gigs and investment properties and my own business and all of this. So I've hired an accountant, and yet still around tax time, I still stress out. So we're going to talk about some tax tips and things, and we'll see who we have in the room today. So my role is table topics. And so impromptu speaking is what we're talking about. We're practicing. And so these are 1 to 2 minute talks, and you will come up, volunteers, members, or guests, and you'll have 1 to 2 minutes to answer the question. At 1 minute, we'll have green, 1 minute, 30 seconds yellow, and red is 2 minutes. With that, oh, one other thing, I am looking forward to my deduction coming this year, so gotta squeeze that in there. All right, first, do we have any accountants in the room? Oh, we do. I was assuming you'd probably be up late at the office. So are you interested in a table topic tonight? All good? Okay. All right. Do we have any business owners in the room? Same person. Okay. Or online, accountants or business owners? Yes? Are you interested? Great. All right. So as a business owner, you know there's a lot of different loopholes, hacks, write-offs, all the things. In your experience being a business owner, what is one thing that you've learned that has really helped you?
Thank you for that question. One thing that I've learned while being a business owner is very little, only simply because I'm a new business owner in terms of opening my own coaching practice. But one of the things that I have learned about being an owner, being a leader, and speaking out to some of the things that we see going on in our society in terms of where we would like to see our tax money go and the deductions that we would like to see is learning how to win friends and influence people. I believe that a lot of the misuse of some of the money and some of the practices that we see in business, because those that see the vision, that see the things that need to change, have yet to practice the skills that it takes to influence people, to speak directly to the issues and come with solutions and speak to them confidently and speak them into existence. All too often, we see more of some of the other avenues that our tax dollars go to, which are somewhat arguably not the best use of our money, are typically done by people who have that drive to learn those things so that they can see what they want and their agendas to come to fruition. So I would urge all business owners, all leaders, all people who are involved in the political scene in their local states to practice the skills, to learn how to win friends over, influence them, and learn how to articulate your message and to initiate your visions. Madam Table Topic.
Thanks. Thank you. That was wonderful, and looking forward to hearing from you as your business goes along. All right, the next ones are for any US citizen who is paying taxes. So this should be pretty much majority of the room. Any volunteers? All right, you come up? Yes. All right, remind me your name. Gabby. All right, Gabby, what would you do if you got a surprise $10,000 tax refund this year?
If I got a surprise $10,000 refund this year, the first thing that I would do is talk to my financial planner. I have realized that the biggest lesson that I've learned this year is that self-love is not just taking care of yourself, but taking care of business. And so to love yourself is to love your money, your fitness, your health. And in order to thrive, we have to also surround ourselves with people who have the knowledge to help us thrive. So I would call up Blanche. I would ask her, what do you think I should do? And then I would do it. Thank you.
Wonderful. It was a very responsible answer. I feel like if my husband were here, he'd be like, oh, we're buying this, we're doing this. So very responsible answer and what you should do. All right. Any other volunteers online or in, oh, yes, go ahead. Come on up. All right. Remind me your name. Milton. Okay. If you could choose which government agency to give your tax money to, what would you choose? This could be defense, national parks, roads, libraries. If you could choose where your personal money goes.
Well, right off the top of my head, I think I'd like for it to go to healthcare. I think at a time during, these past couple of years, with COVID and with everything, all the controversies that we've seen and experienced, I think that, a lot more has to go into healthcare. We need to get healthy again. We need to find new creative ways to bring ourselves all back into optimal health and fitness. I think, the year or two that put us back during the COVID crisis, I think, everybody basically, lost some time there, being at home, not really getting to work out the way they should. So, if I had a choice, I would definitely allocate it to something along those lines. And not your typical Western medicine type of deal of, pharmaceutical interventions. I'm thinking more along the lines of, thinking outside of the box, alternative lifestyles, alternative fitness and wellness strategies that are very underrated. And I think a lot of public awareness to the power of these strategies for your health, for your fitness, can go a long way and surprise many, many people. So with that being said, turn it back over to you.
Thank you. We have time for any more? Is that it for today? One more? Okay. Perfect. Want to come up? Okay. Let's see here. You are the President of the United States, and your first job is to declare to the public that you have increased everyone's taxes by 10%. How would you give this news?
Well, fellow citizens, it looks like we have some very important things that coming on. We have the Chinese that are arming themselves. The Russians are arming themselves. We have a major epidemic that's possibly coming in from the East. To be able to counter this, we are going to have to raise everyone's taxes. I know this is going to hurt, but you think about what the consequences that if we do not do this, if we have an invasion in from Russia and from China, that's going to devastate our people. That's going to hurt our farming, our food, etc. So there's lots of things that are going to be coming in that could devastate our country, particularly if we throw in a pandemic or some type of a flu or whatever. If that would come into the country, we've already saw what happened to the COVID, and which was obviously not dealt with the right way. But we need the dollars now to be able to deal with this. And if you hit it here in April the 15th, tax is going to have to go up 10%. Now, for some of you who are paying, $100 or $50 or $30,000, that's 10%. So that's like be like $3,000 added on to your $30,000, which is not going to be too onerous. Remember that who was it who gave their 10% to God? Well, 10% was what we'd be needing to give back to our country. And thank you for your attention, and go out and be happy to pay those taxes. Thank you.
All right. It was wonderful. It's a tough one. Okay. That's all for table topics. Thanks, everyone. And Timer's report is next.
Thank you, Table Topics Master, and to all that participated. Great job. We had Leon first at 1 minute and 39 seconds. And just to call out, Leon will be representing Queen City in the next round of Table Topics contest. So good practice. We had Gabby at 40 seconds. We had Milton at 1 minute and 50 seconds, and Bill, right? Bill at 1 minute and 55 seconds. Great job.
All right, thank you and congratulations to all of our table topics speakers. North Carolina is going through some tax changes as well. I'll touch on 2 of them. So first, a benefit. So we have what's called a flat tax in North Carolina. So everyone pays the same percentage regardless of your income. Compare that to the graduated tax that we've got at the federal level. So our current tax rate in North Carolina is 5%. And this year it's going to go down to 4.75%. So that may not seem like a lot. It probably isn't at the end of the day, but it will be going down to 4% by 2027. So we're making progress. Unfortunately, that will be offset by some increases in the gas tax in North Carolina. So that's what you pay directly at the pump. That's going to be going up 2 cents per gallon from 48 cents to 50 cents. So apologies for some of you who are commuting a little bit longer, Alan. Sometimes I know you got a long commute to get up here, but I appreciate the investment that you're making in Toastmasters this year. I will say that's maybe just another reminder. Think about the tax credit on the electric vehicle side. You can avoid that gas tax altogether. We'll move to our evaluations portion of the meeting. So this is when we provide feedback on both our speakers as well as the meeting as a whole. So please join me in welcoming our general evaluator, Toastmaster Eric Laxer.
Thank you, Toastmaster of the evening, Jamie. Good evening, fellow Toastmasters and honorable guests. I'm Eric Laxer, and I will be leading the evaluation portion of the evening. And it's no coincidence that intrinsic in the word evaluation is the word value. If you think about successful people or success each of us may have had in our own lives, it's very unusual to do so without some sort of feedback, either positive or negative, to make sure we're on the right course or how to get on the right course. So I will have several people assisting me during the evaluation portion of the evening. We will start with evaluators for still intact. We're good. Evaluators for both of our speeches. And we will then have a timer's report. I will then give my feedback for the meeting as a whole. And we will then hear from our grammarian. So please join me in welcoming our first evaluator who will be evaluating the speech by Shannon, Toastmaster Allen.
Good evening, fellow Toastmasters, honorable guests, and of course, Shannon. It gives me great privilege to evaluate Shannon. I've known him for several years. He's a district speech contest champion. So this obviously made my job a big challenge, but I'm certainly up for it. And I first want to say I feel so much better now about where my tax dollars are going. So thank you for all of your insight. You did a great job working the room since most of the people here are in person, but you did make it a point to share whichever camera you were looking at so the people on Zoom could not feel left out. So good job with that. There was great vocal variety when you were sharing all the highs and lows of where our tax dollars were going. And of course, you certainly never, ever omit humor from your speeches. And this, of course, was no exception, especially when you were sharing all the hilarious yet ridiculous ways our money is spent. And I'm assuming you came up with a speech based on what the theme was tonight. And I noticed minutes before the meeting started that Shannon was writing everything down. Now, normally you would never, ever tell anyone that you just came up with a speech, which I'm doing for Shannon right now. But just for future reference, we don't have to know when you wrote this speech. The important thing is that you gave it, you rocked it, and everyone enjoyed it. And then I thought it was great that you came up with that speech to adhere to the theme. You had really effective use of pauses as you were building up momentum to let us know each ridiculous thing our tax dollars were going towards. And then I had to wonder, I'm like, okay, so these are a lot of stupid things that our tax dollars are going towards. There has to be some moral premise that Shannon is building up to, right? And you finally did have that at the end where you left us excuse me, left us with a call to action to think about where our tax dollars are going. Now, I have to admit, I had a really hard time trying to think of some suggestions for improvement just based on the caliber of your craft. But I will leave you with two suggestions. Number one, you did engage us with a couple questions if we've ever wondered where our tax dollars go. To improve on that, I would suggest that you say, by show of hands, who has ever wondered where their tax dollars go? And then the other suggestion would be to cite what sources you got the information from. All the places that our money's going. Did you hear about that from Google or a blog or a magazine or wherever? Because I'm kind of curious now, because I feel like I want to now learn what other stupid things our money is being spent on. So thank you once again for sharing that and sharing your humor with us. I look forward to hearing more. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. I would now like to call upon our next evaluator who will be evaluating the speech given by Elvis. Please join me in welcoming Toastmaster Andrea.
Thank you for the opportunity to give an evaluation to one of my mentors. So that was great. That's a great honor. So the thing with evaluating is you're looking at someone from an introspective view and you're trying to see where they're coming from, right? So we're going to use the KISS method today. And KISS stands for what you should keep, what you should include. Sorry about that. What you should maybe shorten, or what you should stop doing. So we're going to start backwards today. What you should stop doing. Don't ever give up on your speech. So don't ever stop talking. So when your volume went out, you did something really well. You just kept talking. It's something we learn as a performer. You just keep talking. And whenever the mic comes back in, you're still on target. Because what we do is we get lost in the sauce and we forget what we're going to say. So if we're continuing our speech from wherever we are, we keep talking and we can catch up and the audience will catch up with you. Usually you may be in person, so somebody might be able to hear you anyway, right? But he's online. So online, you have to take a deep breath, take a moment, which we teach in Toastmasters. Take a breath instead of saying, so. He kept a pleasant look on his face. So that was a good thing. So don't stop. So I know it's supposed to be something that you're supposed to stop doing, but that's not it. So maybe shorten the things that you want to talk about, because I got lost in some of the story, because I know that you were trying to give examples of what anxiety problems you were going through to face, and then you had joy. So I thought that you should include a better title, and a better title for this speech would have been Joy and Pain. Joy and Pain. Joy and pain is what I got from this speech. We have pain because we go in our minds and we think about what we're going to do or what's going to happen, and we go through all these changes, and then what actually happens, like you said with your mom, you just start laughing. And that's often how life is. We're waiting for the bad things to happen when it's actually good things that can happen, as long as we keep that first in our mind. So that is where we're back to keep that focus on giving examples, personal examples, so that we can feel who you are and what you're all about and where the story is going. So keep challenging yourself too, Elvis. You didn't let the deduction of not being here, or you didn't let the challenge of a vacation, who would think a vacation would be a challenge, but I've been there, did a speech, I think in a hotel room one time. So you didn't let that stop you from giving your speech today. So that I applaud you for. And starting your speech with who is happy, ending your speech with who is happy, brilliant. That is brilliant, because you let everybody know at the top of your speech that you were going to do something to bring us joy. So keep doing what you're doing, and we look forward to hearing more from you. Back to you, Toastmaster Eric.
Thank you to both of our evaluators. Can we now please have a timers report from Toastmaster John, and let's give him a warm round of applause.
Thank you for that warm welcome. All right. Ellen, you came in, sir, at 3 minutes and 16 seconds. Andrea, 3 minutes and 23 seconds. Once again, if we were voting, you both would qualify. Great job.
And just a comment for our guests, you've heard our timers say you would qualify. And at meetings, we are not doing it tonight, but we often will vote for the person who we thought did the best job as a speaker, as an evaluator, and during table topics. We don't have a ballot counter tonight, but that's one of the other roles that somebody can sign up for in Toastmasters. I'm going to take just a few minutes. I'm going to provide an of the meeting as a whole, and I'll go through several of our role players and I will give feedback. I will start with David, who has had several roles here today, especially setting up the audio-visual equipment. And without what he does, as we saw last week, sometimes it can be a real struggle. So David, well done there. Jamie, thank you for being a great Toastmaster of the day. As we all know, sometimes the things in life we have to focus on and take care of the most are the things we want to do the least. And on my personal list are taxes. So you provided us with helpful, useful information. You were well organized. You seemed to be very relaxed. You ran a very smooth meeting. And most importantly, you offered easy things that all of us can do to increase our effective income. And who doesn't want to do that? So thank you for that. Leon, you were our inspirational thought master. What I really liked about how you did your role today, you started with a personal story, specifically giving an example of being in a situation at work. And based upon your experience in Toastmasters, speaking up during your pitch contest and being recognized by others at work, and then being given other opportunities at work. And just for many of you here who already know this, but especially for our guests, we hear this story over and over and over again from other Toastmasters who, because of what they do here, get promoted, increase their salary, and unfortunately have to then pay more taxes, but that's a whole other issue. Melissa, thank you for a great job with table topics. You also started with a personal story, which I think was really nice. You gave a great explanation for our guests for your role, and congratulations to all of our participants, Leon, our guests, Gabby, Milton, and Mr. President, Bill. Thank you for the great job by all of you. Couple of comments on our evaluators. I thought you guys both did an excellent job. You could tell that you were experienced evaluators, and the technique we like to follow at Toastmasters is we generally identify positive things that people have done during their speech or presentation, and then we offer several suggestions. And I thought your suggestions on both ends were excellent. John, thank you for keeping time. I have nothing to suggest for you to do otherwise next time. And with that, I will call on our grammarian report. So please join me in welcoming our past president, but present grammarian, Toastmaster David.
Thank you, Eric. All right. Deduction, I thought would be an easy word. And if I missed it, I only heard Jamie, Melissa, and Andre use it. I don't know if anybody else used it, but I thought it'd be fairly easy tonight. As far as filler words, I think the winner goes to Jamie. But there was a filler word used when you said so, you like owned it. You're like, so, like it was, it wasn't even subtle. Where with Andrea, you had over 10 so's, but it seems like part of your speech, because they're so quick and they're not really fillers. It's just the way you talk. I thought that was kind of interesting. Milton, you used every filler word except for so. You got in, I was waiting. You said, and even an but you didn't go to so. You did good. Jamie, or not Jamie, Alan, you were clean. You didn't have any filler words. And a couple good words of the night I heard when Shannon was talking about he loved the police, comma. He wanted us to know that there was a comma in that instead of just a pause. I thought that was kind of neat. And Andrea said, don't get lost in the sauce. I thought that was great. And what else? I think that's it. Alan said not to mention it, but Shannon literally wrote that speech at 6:10 and he gave it about 30 minutes later. So that's a tribute to what you can do as you continue to work along Toastmasters and you practice over and over again. He has won a district contest as a speech and the speech contest. And that's what I want to tell Andrea, who's going to be representing us as evaluator, and Leon as table topics master. The number is 2016. That's the last time we won a contest here at Queen City. So don't want to put any pressure on you guys, but it's been a while since we've won a district contest. With that, I'll hand it back to our general evaluator. Thanks, sir.
Thank you, David, and all the other role players. And before I hand it back to Mr. Toastmaster, I just want to point out that based upon everything I heard today about taxes, the government, happiness, and spending, when I leave here, I'm going to be calling my accountant, my financial planner, my doctor, my guru, and of course, my congressman. So thank you, everybody, and back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
All right, thank you. What a great meeting. I want to thank all of our speakers tonight. I want to thank all of our volunteers tonight who came up for table topics. Taxes are stressful. I get it. It can be frustrating. It's a terribly complex tax system that seems like it changes each and every year. The rules, what's going to qualify, what can you deduct, etc. All I'll say, you'll get out of it what you put into it. So don't just be an innocent bystander to our terrible tax system or what it feels like a terrible system. Go out, do a little bit of research, and I guarantee you, you will find something that you can take advantage of this year that might allow you to put a little bit more money into something fun and not just a financial planner. All right, I'm going to end our meeting there, but we've got a couple minutes. So I'm going to see if we can quickly introduce or go back around to our guests and just see any last comments or thoughts, or maybe plans for joining Toastmasters.
Thank you again for a great night tonight. Look forward to speaking with someone about joining. There's my answer. So with that said, look forward to listening to the next speeches next week.
Thanks.
Well, thank you. I have an opportunity to speak at the CMS school board next week, so I won't be here on Tuesday. That's when the school board meets every second Tuesday of the month. But I will be coming back at the following week, and I have full intentions to be joining and giving you some money. All right, thank you.
Okay, so now everything has come to a close. I'd like to talk about how I found out about Toastmasters. It's actually in this book that I read called Unapologetically Ambitious. And the woman in the book said that she joined Toastmasters. She knew she would be in larger spaces, or she wanted to. One of the key skills that she needs to have is to be good at speaking to people. And so today, before I came, I looked up Toastmasters because I thought it was this out of reach thing that I would have to wait to do at some point later in life. And to find a chapter in Charlotte was very exciting. And today, I think I got a lot of useful tips and a lot of value from showing up. So you'll see me again. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
First and foremost, I want to thank you all for having me. Very excited about being here, very excited about having this type of exposure and this opportunity to really just come out of my shell and let the words just slide out of my tongue and express myself in such a way where I can make a positive difference, positive change. Thank you.
Yep, it was a great meeting tonight, and thanks for everyone that was speaking tonight. I'd like to join. I need to do a lot of work, so you know, I'll keep coming to sessions, and it was good. Awesome.
We got Kelly.
I'd just like to say I'm continually impressed with the ease that each one of you present your conversation to us. You seem comfortable, you seem confident, and I hope to gain those skills by watching you. Thanks.
Thank you. And Zhenya.
Thank you for a great meeting. I was super impressed with Shannon, right? So you are a true inspiration, and knowing that you actually made up the speech in 15 minutes or presented it in 30 minutes after, I think that this was amazing. And taxes, I think, is a pretty boring topic, and you made it fun. When I was listening to you, it was just one of those things where you're like, wow, how could you make such a boring topic exciting? So thank you for doing that. And I'm looking forward to
All right. Well, that concludes our meeting. It's going to take me a second to get to the gavel, so we'll just end right there. Thank you all for coming, and we'll see you next week.